Welcome, everybody, to another edition of TEW 2020 here in WCW, not 2003, but WCW 2004. For those of you clicking on this, because I'll be putting a big old #1 on this video, this is, of course, not a new series, but a continuation of my long-running series that started with 2001, or, basically one of the mods where you can take over to WCW, basically if it didn't get bought out by the WWE. And this was started in TEW 2016. On my channel, you can see everything, back history, setups, all that fun stuff. Since, people might come across this as a new series or something, I'll also include basically my year-end review as a #0 on the basically playlist. So if you get this first, because it'll probably show up first because the year-end review is an older video, basically go back and watch that if you're not confused. I'll do my best to put basically over all the storylines before that, but some things might slip through. And also, for people who've been following along. Sorry for the brief break there, but basically, the Pacific Northwest got stupidly hot, so, made doing anything involving recording really not fun. And also, perhaps most importantly, it was 4th of July, long weekend, other stuff, just needed a break after the end of the year stuff. But anyway, we're off the Nitro. It's the night after Starrcade. We've got a little under 15,000 people at the Milwaukee Mecca, and we start with our first pre-show match. As in a pre-show match that had terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat, Beth Phoenix and Angel Fox defeated Nikita Colt and Lucina Busek. Colt and Busek are two of our developmental wrestlers from AWQ, American Wrestling Queens, and Phoenix and Fox are two of our, babyface women wrestlers. Fox is a former multi-time women's world champion, but now she's on the pre-show. But Beth Phoenix defeated Busek with a Down in Flames in 10:09. This gets a 58. Fox gets a 57, Phoenix gets a 46, Busek gets a 48, and Nikita Colt gets a 50. Solid stuff. Then we have another pre-show match, as in a poor pre-show match. Era Paris, Chavo Guerrero, and Shiri defeated Lestat, Reno, and Shannon Moore in 15:03. When Paris pins Reno with a diving leg drop, this gets a 65. Again, this is just like some people who didn't have anything to do on the show itself. So there you go. So Paris gets a 75. Shiri gets a 63, Chavo Guerrero gets a 71, Moore gets a 43, Reno gets a 57, Lestat gets a 68. Basically, this got a ding for bad announcing color commentary because this probably could have been a decent match, probably because I had like some of my upper mid cutters in it, but because Borash, Mike Sanders, and Conan, my pre-show commentary team, just to build them up for future careers and eventually maybe taking over, once Shivani and everybody else gets a little older. But yeah, anyway, that's it for now. That's it for that match, so let's move on to the actual show. Well, we kind of move on to the actual show. It's first basically because this is our first Nitro back on Turner on TBS, basically since the new era began with 2001, because we're on FX for the previous 2.5 years. We start basically with a WCW on Turner history package, starting with, of course, your Crockett footage, Ric Flair doing Ric Flair things, Dusty Rhodes doing Dusty Rhodes things. It doesn't say specifically there, but probably the race on screen. Then we move forward a little bit, to the more late 80s era. So we got Sting, still Flair, we got the Road Warriors, and then we move on to the Nitro era. So you see, we see Sting, Crow Sting, Hogan, Ric Flair doing older Ric Flair stuffs, and then we sort of transition to the new era of WCW, which fans, some fans probably haven't seen yet. So we focus on our world champion Eddy Guerrero, the new high flying people like AJ Styles, and of course Bill Goldberg, just wrecking fools. And this is basically a 3-minute package at the start of the show, and basically then we go to the opening, and this gets a 74. And then we go to our opening promo, which gets an 85. As what starts here is Eric Bischoff comes out, basically, puts over, thanks, Turner for allowing, WCW to return home to TBS, puts over what a great show that Starrcade was. But, that was the past. Now we're moving on to the future. So right now at our next big show, Showdown in the Sun, live from Mexico City, the main event will be, as was set up by their victories, Eddy Guerrero, the WCW World Heavyweight Champion, taking on Vampiro. But last year, at the start of the year, we had a cage heat match. So it, still at Showdown in the Sun, we will have a cage heat match as well. Because you get what you deserve here in World Championship Wrestling, the fans do. And just so you guys, again, new fans know, Bischoff isn't a heel. He's also not a babyface. He's basically playing his sort of shit disturber, raw GM character, basically whatever does best for business, with sort of an exasperated, dealing with all these morons type of era as well. But anyway, he puts over, then he basically brings out all the competitors. First he brings out Morningstar because he defeated Jeff Hardy last night. Then he brings out Chuck Palumbo, who got the big win over Ric Flair last night at Starrcade. Then he brings out Shane Helms, who he basically says this, yes, he lost the U.S. title versus Ray Jr., but he is annoying, but he is also rare that he's been one of the greatest U.S. champions of history. Then he brings out the next few, who is next up we've got Sean O'Hare, who got the big win over Mike Awesome last night at Starrcade, and who gets a big pop because he's one of our hotter baby faces. Then next up is Canyon, who again Bischoff puts over. He lost the world title match versus Eddie Guerrero, but he had one of the best matches of the year at Starrcade. And then he finally announces the final competitor, Goldberg, who got the big win over Macias. And he basically comes down to the ring, and it's all 6 men. And, they're about to basically do wrestler things where they argue each other and fight. But before, he basically says, yes, all 6 of you will compete in a one-fall match at Cage Heat. Whoever gets the pinfall victory will get the title shot at Super Bowl, which means it'll be every man for himself. But first, tonight, the main event tonight, it's going to be Shane Helms, Morningstar, and Canyon taking on Palumbo, O'Hare, and Goldberg. And crowd pause for that. And basically, we have some stare downs because, of course, O'Hare has Goldberg has his problems with the rest of Deadpool, including Morningstar. Canyon, has a showdown with Goldberg because Goldberg gets the world title off of him. And Palumbo and Hirsch are our new hot baby faces, but Helms is of course a cocky heel, so he sort of squares up with them. And basically we have that showdown as we go to the back. This gets an 85, really good promo. Not quite as good as it could have been just because we had some issues with announcing, and Palumbo had a bad horse improvising, but still good stuff. And really builds up like that big 6-man at the pay-per-view. Then we go backstage where Jeremy Borash, our erstwhile backstage interviewer, is with Bonnie Brown, who has Miss Jones, who you probably know best as Paisley, I think, and Stevie Ray with him. Basically, Borash basically puts over for anybody who didn't Starrcade that it was supposed to be Ernest Miller versus Stevie Ray for Control Saturday Night, but Stevie Ray replaced himself with Monty Brown, and Monty Brown destroyed Ernest Miller. And Borash basically wants an explanation, and basically, Stevie Ray says a fruity booty like Ernest Miller was dumb for not reading the contract. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is a new era, and we're begins tonight. Begins with the man who will send WCW in further into the thousands. The next big man, the next main man, Monty Brown. And Monty Brown does Monty Brown in the background, and then they walk off together. 44, good stuff. Not the best thing, but these guys aren't really over yet, and Monty's basically been part of my bundle territory for basically I think the last 2 years almost, maybe last year and a half. Regardless, he's been in there a while. Now it's time to bring him onto the main roster. Then we have our first actual match in the ring, as in about that terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat. Jordan Cole defeated Amber O'Neal in 6:58 by pinfall. A back and forth match. Cole's the babyface, Amber O'Neal's heel, mean squeeze of Cash, who is a member of Helms and Company's stable. But basically back and forth match. But Cole gets the big win. This gets a 59. Cole gets a 52. Amber O'Neal gets a 51. Solid, solid just women's match to put over that they're strong competitors, and Cole gets the win. As just put over, that last night at Starrcade, there was a big four-way women's match where we crowned a new WCW World Women's Championship. But as Cole celebrates, out of nowhere, Nikita Colt, who you probably know better in real life as Winter from TNA or Paul Burchell's quote-unquote sister, Katie Lee, she comes down and just wrecks Jordan Cole from behind, locks her in some sort of submission hold before WCW officials run down, but she slips out, points at Cole, and then walks away. So this gets a 50 as Nikita Colt makes her official WCW debut on Nitro. Then we go backstage, where you have Rey Mysterio Jr. with the United States title. Thank the fans for their support, and that here in WCW for the last couple of months he's been dealing with Shane Helms, but last night at Starrcade was Helms' last shot at the US title, so he wants new competition. This brings in Jamie Noble, who has the cruiserweight title around his waist, and his bodyguard Ebony Sale behind him, and Noble basically interrupts him, says he's proving that really the Redneck Rebel is the best cruiserweight of champion of his era. And, that Ray Jr. is nothing but a flash in the pan. After all, did you ever win a big 6-way at Starrcade? No, you didn't. JB Noble, he's Redneck Rebel. He's got the backup that he needs. And most importantly, later tonight, in that ring, he's going to prove why he's the greatest cruiserweight of his era. And Ray Jr., you're already old news. We have a quick stare down. We move on. It's now just put over that yes, in a non-title match, the U.S. champion of Ray Jr. will take on the cruiserweight champion of JB Noble. SS gets a 67, solid stuff. Then in a 4-way cruiserweight match, and about that Turbo Wrestling and non-existent crowd heat, the EX Skipper defeated Blitzkrieg, Cash, and Young in 554 when EX Skipper pinned Blitzkrieg with the overdrive. This gets a 57, again, back and forth, 4-way high-flying match. By the end, Skipper is able to get the win. Skipper gets a 40, but mainly because he was injured, but I still wanted to give him the big win, because I have plans for him. Blitzkrieg gets a 53, Cash gets a 65, and Yang gets a 54. And yeah, solid stuff. Just, your typical cruiserweight style, high-flying match, nothing too fancy, but just puts over Skipper. And then Skipper celebrates, which gets a 34, but, 1-minute angle, not the end of the world or anything. Then we have a promo where Jeremy Borash has caught up with Nikita Colt, and she puts over that, she's looking for true competition here in World Championship Wrestling. She's been a dominant athlete all over the world, and that she's going to prove that there's ice in my veins, and if any of these little blonde cheerleaders have a problem with them, she'll just face in the ring and rip their limbs apart. And then she walks away again. 42, solid stuff. Again, his Colt is basically, brand new character, so not that over yet. Then we go basically backstage where Eric Bischoff is in his office doing Eric Bischoff in his office stuff. When out of nowhere, the door opens, and in comes Jonathan Toro, our TV champion, who you probably might know better as Jonathan the Bull, his manager, Elizabeth Canales, who you might know better as George Clooney's girlfriend for a couple years in the late 2000s, and his tag team, Romeo Lavernus, also known better as Kid Romeo, and Springer Pomponius, better known as Johnny Springer. The stable is the Roman Legion, and Toro basically says, he's been dominating Saturday Night for the past couple of months. Now he wants to chance on Nitro to show that he's the greatest champion in World Championship Wrestling as the television champion. And, this TV title was made on TBS on shows like Saturday Night and Nitro. So he wants a shot to show the greatness of the Italian Legion live on Nitro. Bischoff is like, okay, fine. Next week, you'll have a TV title match. I'll figure out a challenger for you, but you don't get to know him yet. Good stuff, 52, not the end of the world or anything. I've been slowly putting these guys over, since Saturday Night. Toro's been a long-time TV champion, and now, with the start of the year, time to create some new stars, including Toro, and put them on TV. So there we go. Then in our big tag team match, so basically what happened here is last night at Starrcade, there was a tag team gauntlet match, and basically Jet and Linden had won a couple big matches, parts of the gauntlet in a row, but Storm and Kidman came in as the final team in the gauntlet and, did heelish things to win the match. So now there's a rematch. Announcers put over that, Storm and Kidman are still the official number one contenders, but of course if Jet and Linden win this match, they might be able to, talk to the championship committee or Eric Bischoff and get involved in the title picture. Well, in about that good wrestling and decent rank for the crown, Lance Storm and Billy Kidman defeated Jason Jet and Paul London 12-21. Lance Storm submitted Paul London with a Canadian Maple Leaf after interference from Jeff Jarrett. So, of course, as part of that gauntlet, Jarrett and Douglas, who are half of the Horsemen, got beat by Jet and London. So Jarrett comes down, destroys London with a guitar shot. Lance Storm locks on the Canadian Maple Leaf and gets involved, gets a submission victory. Gets a 73. Probably could have been a little better if Kidman wasn't injured, but he still gets an 81. But even with his injury, Storm gets a 74, London gets a 78, and Jet gets a 66. And afterward, the heels celebrate, including April Hunter, who is Kidman's manager / valet, and that gets a 72. And then we have a sort of big post, end of the first hour angle. As first, Eddy Guerrero comes out, to a big pop as he's the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He does put over Keenan, who was his opponent at Starrcade. It was a great match, but I was just a little bit better, and that's why I'm the world champion. Because I'll do what I need to keep a hold of this belt and prove I'm the best wrestler on the planet. Vampiro's evil heel music comes out, and he comes out in basically because Eddy of course took the belt off Vampiro at Halloween Havoc. He says it's, and also Eddy, as part of promo, says, he'll be glad to make his, a big title defense in Mexico, in front of, fans like, that look like him in Mexico City. Then that has, of course, Vampiro comes out. Vampiro puts over his history in Mexico, says, Eddy, you forget, I was a true Mexican star. I was on the cover of magazines. I was the man who did what you couldn't, who became a star in Arena Mexico, became a star all over Mexico. Well, you were still truly looked at nothing but an interloper from across the border who acted like he was Mexican, but always went back to America, and of course, went back to the USFA eventually. And, Guerrero fights back and says, you can talk all you want, Holmes, I say, but I'm the world champion. I beat you once at Havoc, and every fan in Mexico knows that the Guerrero name is what matters, not a little flash in the pan like you wore in Mexico before you pissed off every promoter and had to come running away back to the United States and build up your little scary stable. Vampiro fights back. You can talk up all you want and talk about you have no fear, but I know the darkness that you've had before, Guerrero. And Guerrero says, well, yes, I've been happy to admit, brother, that I haven't always been an angel. But Guerrero family tradition means at Showdown in the Sun, in front of thousands of fans in Mexico City, I'm going to prove you wrong once again. And it was Stare Down, and there we go. 93. Solid stuff. And then basically we come back from that to have a match. We're in a decent match. Alex Wright defeated Sean Stasiak in 6-12 by pinfall. This gets a 75. Honestly, this was just a good match to have a good match on the show. Wright's been one of my mid-card, upper mid-card guys who I haven't used great in the bottom half of the year. So get him a TV win over a mid-card hero like Stasiak, and solid stuff. Wright gets a 72, Stasiak gets a 58. And then afterwards, Wright celebrates to a 69. Nice. Again, nothing special, just a solid win for Wright to put over, and there we go, moving forward. Then we go backstage, where basically Celine Cartier is backstage. She's the new, she has the WCW Women's World Title belt. She's proud of her win, even though she didn't, pin the champion, Gail Kim. She thanks fans for their support. It's basically a straightforward babyface promo with a slight French-Canadian tilt, because that's what she is. She'll face anybody, and she's happy to be the champion for the fans. And she says something in French, which, I don't know. I forgot to look that up, what would be a good French saying, but, there we go. 47, solid stuff, straightforward. Then we have an abysmal match. That's mean. Monty Brown defeats Tracy Smothers in 122 by pinfall to Pounce. So basically we have the whole Pounce fans of Monty Brown coming out with Stevie Ray and Miss Jones. Tracy Smothers on the other side of the ring, where they really hype him up. Bell rings, and Brown just kills him. Basically just throws him with a big suplex. Tracy slowly gets up. Boom, Pounce. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the ring. Brown gets a 55. Tracy Smothers gets a 38. Good stuff. And then Monty, Miss Jones, and Stevie Ray all celebrate, and that gets a 54. Again, just a straightforward squash win for Monty. Then we go backstage, where Storm and Kidman, are basically, run into Air Raid backstage, who Air Raid won the Assault on Anarchy match, aka TLC match at Starrcade. Kid and Storm put over, they're lucky that they didn't get their title shot tonight, like they were promised for winning the gauntlet. Air Raid basically says, we would have been happy to face you, but, WCW officials stepped in. That's why we're happy to take you on, whenever. And Kid and Storm, you should be happy to know that we're going to take you on next week, and we're going to take those titles off of you and put them around the waist of real wrestlers who have competed hard in WCW without getting what they deserve for years, instead of two young punks who were given everything just because WCW is desperate for new stars. Again, their face-off is now just put over. There'll be a big tag title match next week live on Nitro. This gets a 65, because some bad rolls for everybody's dialect. What can you do? Then we go backstage, where Jared and Douglas walk in basically to Horseman's dressing room, where we have Canyon and Ric Flair. Jared and Douglas, put over the fact, they just, they did what they needed to do against Jet and London, who, took a shot to win the gauntlet away from them. You and the point Canyon and Flair were looking at their runes. Canyon puts over, that, he's in the main event tonight. So he's being ready for that. We're good enough shot to take back his world title. Then then Ric Flair steps on basis, says, yeah, last night, it's true. I got beat by Palumbo. But the important thing is, if you want to be a 15-time world champion, you gotta lose 15 times. And those things will happen. But when you're the dirtiest player in the game, when you ride limousines, when you ride their jets, you have to remember, two things are really true in this life. Only two things are forever. Diamonds are forever, and the horsemen. And only two men in this room have become world champion. Me and Canyon. So yes, you guys did good tonight. But horsemen are about doing that every single night. But we're still horsemen. We're going to get it back on track. Tonight was a good start. And later tonight, because Canyon may be stuck with non-horseman partners, but he's going to prove and remind the fans one thing. Canyon walks and says he's better than everybody. And tonight gets his path back to the title one more time. So, basically put over, Ric Flair does Ric Flair things, puts over that he did lose to Palumbo, last night at Starrcade, but he's back to the mountain. Kenny has a big shot tonight. Of course, this gets 100 because these guys are all awesome. And then, in a good match, Jamie Noble defeats Rey Mysterio Jr. in 10:51 by pinfall, the diving leg drop, following interference from Ebony Sable. So, back and forth, high-flying match. But Ebony Sable runs in, basically gets a ref bump. Ebony Sable comes in, hits a quick power bomb or big spear or something on Rey Jr. That allows Jamie Noble to come off the top with a diving leg drop, which is a finisher I'll probably have to fix because that's not his actual finisher. Anyway, but he gets the quick pinfall victory, holds it tight still because he's still bastard heel even after interference. And he gets the big win. So this gets an 84, which is surprisingly good. Rey Jr. gets an 85, Jamie Noble gets a 68. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Very hot crowd. Just hot crowd, star quality. Okay. It's a big win for Jamie Noble, even with interference. And post-match, him and Ebony Sable celebrate, which gets a 47. So now, it's time for the main event of the night. Ouch. That's unfortunate. Okay. Man. That's really unfortunate. I really thought this was going to be better, but I guess, there's nobody really in the match to keep this. I didn't even do it all. Yeah, okay. I guess this was a little long to be all out, especially with nobody who is a great, Helms, Morningstar, and Canyon are all good in workers, but unfortunately the other side is Goldberg and O'Hare. All guys with big upsides and lots of star quality, but not the greatest. Okay, but anyway, about that superb wrestling and great heat, Bill Goldberg and Palumbo O'Hare defeated Helms, Morningstar, and Canyon in 1857 when Goldberg pinned Morningstar with a jackhammer. So this is just your classic, top of the card, big US Pro style, main event style, just insane, no real psych, just everybody hitting their big moves on thing. Devolves into a six-way near the end, and at the end, Goldberg is able to hit a big spear and get Goldberg up in the jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. And the interesting thing is, Canyon is basically in the ring, but he decides, not to do the save and just let Morningstar take the pin. As the announcers put over, that probably won't happen at Showdown in the Sun because Canyon will want a chance to earn the number one contendership. But tonight, Canyon's happy to let Morningstar take the fall. 77. So Canyon gets a 92. Morningstar gets a 78. He was also injured, but I don't think that's why the match was that bad. Helmet gets an 85. Plum gets an 88. O'Hare gets a 91. And Goldberg gets a 92. So let me just make sure that was also just lack of psychology. Yeah, basically lack of psychology and some injured inconsistency, but nothing else huge. Okay. Not the end of the world. Still a good main event, 77. And overall, the show gets an 84. So, not our best show ever. And honestly, if we had a slightly better main event, maybe an 85 instead of 77, we probably could have got up to a 90. Not the end of the world. We're building stuff, we're building new characters, we're building new people, and we're, building toward a big pay-per-view in 3 weeks. So, not the end of the world or anything. All right, and we're back. What happened is I actually booked Raw this time around just to do some beginning of the year fun stuff. But I just didn't want to, just in case that sent us over to WF, I wanted to fix some things. But anyway, Triple H has a new catchphrase, which is interesting. Let's look at the mail. So, okay. Jeff Jarrett opinion. Okay, that's mean. Anyway, if we look at our show history, so yeah, that got a 6.29 rating, which compared to our ratings from 2003 is like, yeah, basically 2 extra. Basically, we basically got it on even like, let's just compare real quick. So on, where are we? FX, we were getting 495,000 viewers, okay? So now on Nitro, on TBS, we're up to 1.7 million. So there you go. That's a big, huge win. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually quite happy with this. If we look at our storylines real quick, so we got, so our Money Brown storyline is up to 58. Cruiserweight Fun is up to 56. Our setup, again, I need to rename some of these, is still an 82. Johnny Toro is at a 42. Mexican Standoffs at an 82. Tag Gauntlets at a 73. Tag Wars is at a 79. And the 2 women's is at a 49. So, you know, we're basically rebuilding things, but we're really setting things up for the future. And yeah, we got more people showing up the next couple weeks. But yeah, it's fun stuff, and I really think it was a really solid show, and I really enjoyed booking it just because, you know, it was good, honestly, after not, like, because I booked, obviously, Starrcade a little bit before I put it up, so I haven't, like, actually booked this company in a couple weeks, and it was really, like, actually quite interesting to do, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's it for now, so I hope you enjoyed this. You know, go ahead and give it a like if you enjoyed it, comment below on anything you liked and didn't like, and subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this, my WCW 1993 with no Eric Bischoff series, which is now entering 1994, and my MLW 2005 series, which is heading, you know, towards the end of the year with lots of big matches. But, you know, that's it for now. Talk to you later, and have a good one. Adios.